Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 30th, 2024. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Thursday has been good to me, good for me. Even have some interesting, fun news that we're going to be getting into. I will say though, just to, I guess, maybe get a little introspective, melancholic, I don't know. There's some part of me that wants to say that this month wasn't a good month. And I know that it was. You know what I mean? I know that when I actually run through the tail of the tape, I weigh the good and the bad, the happy and the sad, that this was overall a really good month. But sometimes you look at it and it took enough of a toll on you, and you're like, man, this thing did drag, you know. And then we got to do another one of these things, you know, another month, and there's more things to come. There's more hardships, more trials and tribulations. I don't know, but that, and I was saying and thinking all this shit to myself, feeling almost away. And then, like I said, there's just been so much good happening in my life. I'm constantly reminded that I'm in a good place, maybe the best place I could be for, you know, my life right now. And I really should be thankful for that. And I know I'm also thankful for you, the listeners. I know there's a few of y'all out there, and I really appreciate y'all for listening to me, whine and moan, laugh and cry about all this stuff that happens in my life and in the world around me, around us. So, I really do appreciate that. I know I'm just kind of taking a little bit of time here before I get into the food corner and, like I said, the real news, all that shit. But sometimes it's just nice to kind of decompress like this with y'all. It feels good. But yeah, no, I still want to say this wasn't a bad month. There's just a part of me that's going to be like, man, I'm going to limp off of this emotionally. But hey, overall we were good and things were good. Let's see here. Like I said, food corner. I made little Mexican beef and rice bowl. It was very yummy. I enjoyed it. I didn't fry any tortillas this time. Just did them in the skillet real quick. So it was nice and easy. Nothing really special though. With some tortilla chips and, like I said, the tortillas. Let's see here. Oh, a random situation happened at work where I'm over here, I'm doing my cardboard thing, and I hear, "Hey, psst, Isaiah," and I'm like, I look over, and they're like, "Food." And I hate that everyone knows me. I hate that everyone just knows I'm just the food cow, just go, "Hey, Isaiah, come, little garbage disposal man, come eat this." And I'm going to say yes. And I was like, hold on. Let me, get settled, and then I'll come over to you. So I come over, and literally the two of the guys in maintenance, they just proceed to be like, "Hey, we got some food for you. You gotta have some. Take it all if you want." And I'm like, oh, I don't like that as a guy who's literally, self-conscious about their weight, trying to do what they can about it. Oh my gosh. And they show me 3 subs. Like, this is like some kind of like video game, pick your own option kind of thing. And except it's even worse than that. They're like, "Take them all, man. Like, we don't want them." They are emphatic that I take all of this food off their hands. It's gonna go bad. Just take it. And I'm like, no, I'll just take this one sub. And it was like an Italian sub with like sesame seeds on it. And I'm like, sure, if you're going to beat down my door, I'll take this bad meat. Why not? And so I took it. And then they added on to it. They're like, "Hey, we got a microwave right over there." And I'm like, what do you mean right over there? And I kind of like craned my head to see, and I don't see the microwave. And I didn't know that there was a microwave over here. And they're like, "Come over here." And so I go around the bend. And sure enough, at a ladder's reach, there is a microwave. And of course, my fucking fat ass goes and hops up on this little step ladder, and I put it in the microwave. And here's the worst part about it, y'all. There's maybe a follow-up worst part about it. But the worst part to me was I realize now that, because there's fencing to kind of fence off the maintenance department area from the rest of the first floor, if you will. And I realize that I can see over it. like kind of like a Lion King, you can see everything kind of vibe. And I realized that everyone can see me if they want to look over and see my fucking fat ass on a stepladder using the highest microwave to eat a sub he does not need to eat. So I was like, yeah, that's me, just standing on this ladder. I'm not coming down. I'm gonna wait right here like a fat cat. And I did. And then I proceed to the second part, go back over to my dumpster. I'm thinking about this and I'm about to say it out loud. It makes me embarrassed, but I don't care. I'm at my dumpster just eating it. I'm just eating the sub. Like right on top of a cardboard buggy. I did not give a shit. I did it. I don't. I'll do it again. I'm a gremlin. I'm a monster. So yeah, okay. That's my food corner / story for the day. And yeah, there we go. So we're going to segue that actually right into some news. We're going to kind of fuse it in a little bit. So yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and we'll just kind of run right into it. That sounds good. Oh, man. And honestly, I hope that by now you've heard the news. I think you know the good news that I'm about to talk about. I mean, at least if you're a fucking dumb little liberal like myself. Like, these are one of the days that I have to accept that I just am what I am. You know? That, like, this is the kind of shit that just makes me want to put hot sauce in my bag. And I hate myself for that. Because I was already going to do it. I already like that shit. I don't need Hillary to tell me that. But god damn it, dude. This is just a fun day. And I'm just in a good mood. I could do a little, a little dance right now, and I guess I'm about to do it right now. Anyway, so by all means, let's do our startup. Ooh wee. Okay. So yeah, Trump was found guilty. There you go. We got it out there. But I got to start this off because I start off my day with like the best quote. Trump says Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges. Just kind of quoting that from C-SPAN. But it was a Donald Trump banger. And essentially he was just saying that in regards to this trial, the jury began deliberating, and by golly, it didn't take them long. I think I heard that they maybe had they came out and asked for maybe a couple of notes on this and that. And they really didn't take long in deliberating, which I love. I was really hoping that we were going to get a verdict before the end of the week, but I was like, that's just too ambitious. There's just no way. This is a former president of the United States, potentially the next president of the United States. Okay? There's just no way this is going to happen so fast. And it happened. And then there was just a verdict. And he's fucking guilty. So, yeah, big day for annoying people, liberals, obviously my fucking self. Honestly, even if you're a Trump enjoyer, I think you're flipping this in a way that is like, oh, they're out to get him. This is rigged. Like, they're coming for him and blah, 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 blah. Like, so I'm sure he's going to flip this into some campaigning. And I mean, shit. Trump already knew he was all in here. He fucking knew. So at the end of the day, this is just a race to the White House. And if he doesn't get there, if he cannot beat old goddamn Joe Biden, then yeah, he's definitely going to jail tonight, But yeah, let's go ahead and read a little bit. I don't have to go full riff. Donald Trump was convicted for falsifying business records to influence the 2016 presidential campaign Thursday, in a historic trial that saw a former U.S. president face criminal charges for the first time. After deliberating over 2 days, a New York jury found Trump guilty of 34 counts related to a $130,000 payment made to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels. The prosecution had alleged Daniels was paid to keep secret a 2006 tryst she had with Donald Trump in order to influence the results of the 2016 election, which Trump ultimately won. Excuse me. Ooh, big burps. But Trump's sentencing has been scheduled for July 11th. So, I mean, it's definitely big news. He's obviously going to appeal this. He's going to stretch this shit out for as long as he can. Hence why I'm really saying it's kind of a race to the White House. Because I know that I think initial people's reaction is like, oh, so he's going to jail. This is kind of wrapped up, right? One, we don't even know if he's going to go to jail, for this shit. Even though these are felony counts, maybe not even jail. Who fucking knows yet? I don't know. Two, in terms of going to jail, if that actually happens, the way this works, the way our legal process is, he can still actually win. He can win, and then as president, he can still run, like he can still like run the office from jail. He'd have a Secret Service staff, all this kind of fucking shit. It would still work, but he could also pardon himself potentially. This is all in the speculation zone. We wouldn't know. Like, this is all uncharted. We don't know until it happens. Type of fucking shit. But we're just definitely living in crazy goddamn times, are we not? But I love it. I fucking love it. I'm personally very happy. Like, goddamn it. I remember going all the way back. People were giving Alvin Bragg, who was the head prosecutor. They're like, dude, like, this is such a long shot case. Like, you have to prove that this shit, like, the whole hush money shit that essentially is like stuff that you really can't get him on, is illegal because of the election interference. Like, you're gonna have to get people to understand what this is and then say, yes, he is guilty of this. And they have to believe it and go with it. That's why, like I said, I've said this before, where we were covering the trial bit by bit, you know, here and there. I really do think that this is going to come down to the jury being like, hey, we don't like Trump enough to actually say, fine, yeah, we're going to listen to this whole legal process here out and we're going to stick to that. Or they like love Trump and they're going to be like, this is the deep state trying to work against my guy. Like, I don't believe any of this shit. Michael Cohen is a liar. Stormy Daniels is a porn star. I can't believe anything she says. And at the end of the day, they're just going to say no believesies. And I think my heart of hearts was, he's either going to be found not guilty or it's going to be a hung jury. Like, there's going to be at least one or two people in the bunch that are going to be like, I'm going to play 12 Angry Men and like get this shit flipped. I'm not about it. So I did not think it was going to be a guilty verdict. I'm genuinely surprised. And I think that's why I'm kind of like, wow, the legal system worked a little bit there. So I don't know. I just find this interesting. I'm tickled about it, and figured I'd yap a little bit. Sorry if I went long and my brain went like dead. I hate when that happens, by the way. I hate when I'm just like, oh, brain fart. Because it's like, don't you have a script, Mr. Podcaster? No, I don't. I run this shit a couple of times and I just say, yeah, I can talk about it now. It's great. This is real A-rank shit here. Anyway, let's move on to the next beat. From USA Today. In Supreme Court NRA ruling, justices issue unanimous decision in favor of gun group. So yeah, score one for the NRA, I guess. The National Rifle Association will get another chance to punish New York regulators who discourage insurers and bankers from doing business with the gun advocacy group, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously Thursday. The NRA sued the New York Department of Financial Services, arguing regulators had coerced insurers against promoting policies by gun rights groups. But regulators, led by former Superintendent Maria Vullo, argued they were simply pointing out insurers might face legal exposure for doing business with a gun group during an era of mass shootings and major lawsuits, and the NRA had no business peddling insurance. So, this to me is, of course, since it's, it's something that's gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, something that is legally complicated to me, but more or less it seems that the NRA is like saying, hey, our rights were violated when this superintendent sent out letters against us saying you guys shouldn't work with them because they're way too high risk and their insurance is bunk. But where I get jammed up is it sounds like the insurance that they were trying to make, this Carry Guard insurance in 2017, it does sound like it was bunk and not good. And it does sound like that the legal justices that ruled in Vullo's favor, it seems like they were correct, but I don't know, man. I know free speech motherfuckers are like, yeah, this is actually a win. So okay. I also know that this was a unanimous Supreme Court ruling, which is something I'm kind of a little bothered by. But I mean, I also harken back to what was another time in recent era of the supercharged, conservative bullshit, when even the liberal justice came through. It was like when we were talking about the ethics of the Supreme Court and like who should judge the Supreme Court, who watches the watchers. And of course the Supreme Court ruled, oh, it should just be an us thing. You know, you guys are not like us, so you don't know how this works. We're just built different, okay? If Alito has his flags and stuff, like let him cook. Like that's not our thing that will work out, this thing of ours. So anyway, let me get back to the NRA regulation shit. Sorry. The NRA began marketing insurance policies in April of 2017 called Carry Guard to cover legal expenses from using a firearm in self-defense, which seems like a very, very big gambit to try to say, hey, we're going to cover these kind of situations. Like, we've already talked about how bad insurance can be in just natural disaster sense. Imagine doing this kind of shit like in 2024 in America. Like there are shootings every fucking day. And please understand that just because I'm not covering shootings as the frequency as I've used to, or, you know, maybe will in the future, just know that there's just other things that are kind of happening in the mainstream sphere that I'm just covering over that. But I think the average American knows how this goes. You know what I mean? You're still scared to go to the movie theater. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, let's see here. Carry Guard policies were administered by insurance broker Lockton and underwritten by insurers Chubb and Lloyd's of London. But the NRA wasn't licensed to peddle insurance in New York, and the Department of Financial Services began investigating in October of 2017. Chubb and Lockton suspended the Carry Guard program the next month. So, I don't know, maybe that's something that when they go back to rehash this out in lower cohorts, maybe this does wind up getting flipped. But essentially, let's just keep reading. By February 2018, after a horrific school shooting in Parkland, Florida, Volo began meeting with insurance executives who did business with the NRA. What was said is disputed, but Lloyd's of London decided to stop underwriting firearm-related policies that month. In short, she made it no secret that her purpose was to penalize an advocacy group because she opposed its political views. I think they're saying, well, because she is a government body, that she is exerting untoward influence on these like insurers, and that's not right. That's not fair. So, I don't know. Once again, this is just something I kind of just personally kind of just disagree with. I can understand how maybe there's some listeners out there like, no, I think actually the Supreme Court's right on this one. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Look, I do not come on here to say, hey, I am right all the time. This is my zone and I am Lord. No, I mean, that would be nice. That'd be nice if I could like do that in podcasting and it would work. Like, you know what I mean? But that's just not how this works. So, you know, I can admit that like, maybe, hey, I'm maybe a little bit off on here. But no, something about this does stink to me. But it's also like kind of a nothing burger. And I can also say like, hey, maybe she did go a little too hard and trying to convince these people to not work with the NRA. But also, I'm just like, dude, the NRA is fucking sus. Like, when you look at the top echelon, once again, this is another thing we've talked about. We've talked about these crazy motherfuckers. You know, they have their own legal woes and shit that they're going through and gone through, whatever. But it is what it is. You know, if you're an NRA enjoyer, I'm not trying to really yuck your yum at this point. So yeah, you know, I figured, hey, we'll do a little coverage there, talk about it. But yeah, I realized, I thought this was something I did know about, and I realized covering, like actually reading the article, I was like, oh, I had no idea about this case. So there you go. Hopefully now you know too. Or maybe you already know. Maybe, I hope my average listener is just smarter than me and is just appeasing me. They just like to hear me talk, which would be oh so sweet. Anyway, we have a thing to cover that's not so sweet. I feel like I've covered a lot of political news, legal shit, but now we're getting to some science. We're getting into some yucky shit, biohazard shit. Ugh. Potential pandemic. No, I won't do it. Okay. From Time Magazine. A third person in the U.S. has bird flu. This time it's different. And I haven't covered any bird flu stories. I have seen them in the news, but I didn't want to like ring any alarm. But I felt like this was like a good enough time to kind of introduce it to the podcast, because I'm like, okay, there's another motherfucker, and this time you can see that it's a little bit different because it's become respiratory. So let's go ahead and dig in. A third dairy worker in the U.S. has tested positive for the bird flu infection. that is causing outbreaks in cattle in at least 9 states. The farm worker from Michigan was exposed to infected cows and is the first of 3 recently confirmed cases to have respiratory systems, according to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The previous 2 people, another in Michigan and one in Texas, did not show any respiratory symptoms but experienced discharge from the eyes. The dairy worker in the latest case worked on a different farm in Michigan than the previous case reported in the state. According to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the dairy worker in the latest case also experienced watery discharge from the eyes. Sorry, that just makes me uncomfortable to say. But also reported coughing with no fever. Tests on samples from the patient performed by Michigan's health department were positive for influenza, a H5, the avian influenza strain. Further tests conducted by the CDC scientists confirmed the results. It's not clear whether the respiratory system symptoms indicate that the virus is changing. CDC scientists are conducting additional sequencing studies to determine if that's the case. But I will add that is the reason why I am covering it. The other 2 were not like that. And just from the scant amount that I've learned, just from like listening to the daily and just picking up here and there, a little peck, a little bit. But essentially this starts in birds, kind of obviously, hence the name. But because of their exposure and like proximity to other like farm animals and other just animals in general, this can spread pretty quickly, and this is a very adaptable flu. So in a lot of situations, it can kind of jump to another farm animal, like a cow, and then it winds up in these cows. And so that's why you can kind of hear a story about like how a chicken population can get bird flu, in terms of like farming, agriculture shit, and they just wind up having to cull them because it's just literally a cheaper, more effective way of stopping the flu from spreading. And it just makes things so much easier. And then literally the government will comp you in some of these situations. I've actually learned about this from a lot of random places. NPR, Planet Money, go listen to that shit. But needless to say, humans aren't prone to get this shit. I have to say that as well. It's very important to mention that. That's why these cases are very few and far between, and important to kind of mention a little bit, because it's that's an anomaly. It should not become common. If that's common, that's a kind of, once again, pandemic kind of level event, a problem. It doesn't look like we're anywhere near that, but someone getting advanced symptoms to a respiratory level are, I would say, concerning, and, something to maybe look into. And I'm sure the CDC are, and this isn't me saying oh, be scared or worried, but definitely it's oh shit, I feel like I want to talk about that now. But it's also another thing that I want to add. This isn't something that oh, you're just gonna get from your average Joe, your buddy, oh, he has the sniffles and now I'm gonna get it. Literally, you have to be in super close proximity to the animal that has it, and then maybe it makes this kind of anomaly type jump into your system. Literally, there was talk of the guys got milk from the infected cow splashed into their eyes, no protection. Pause, question mark, are we not talking about that? That seems that's a thing, right? But hey, who am I to judge a farmer and how he farms? I would not know. I'm a young and dumb city slicker. I should not talk shit. If you got milk eyes from your cow, Bessie, then do your thing. Whatever gets it into the gallon, I guess, whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to judge. But anyway, he got it, and now he's got discharge, and now that's a thing. That's scary. But yeah, so here we are talking about bird flu, huh? Crazy times. Was there anything else I really wanted to pull from here? Probably not. Like I said, I feel like I covered that. I feel like I'm not going to get clapped by YouTube or Spotify saying, hey, you're not spreading misinformation. No, I would never. That's not my style. I'm not a perfect person, but I do my best. Jesus. Anyway. All right, we have one more thing to cover. I know I made a short episode long somehow, some way, but this is good news. And I was yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it today. Let's take our last break, and then we'll go ahead and get into it. Ooh wee. All right. I got a cough and a hiccup. Excuse me in advance. From USA Today. Negro League statistics will be incorporated into Major League Baseball's historical records on Wednesday. So clap it up. We love to see it. Babe Ruth has long been considered the greatest player in baseball history, with arguments made for Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, Barry Bonds, and even Shohei Ohtani, which we've covered. I can't help it myself. There's now a new player entering the debate. Hall of Fame catcher Josh Gibson. Gibson and all the former Negro League players will have their statistics officially incorporated into Major League Baseball's historical records. It's been 3.5 years since MLB officially elevated Negro League statistics to Major League status in December of 2020. Gibson, who spent his entire career in the Negro Leagues from 1930 to 1933 to 40, and 1942 to 46, will now be considered the greatest catcher of all time and arguably the best player of all time, according to the official historical records after the independent committee reviewed them. I just thought this was like really cool, and it was something that like it kind of like trickled down, it hit me in waves is what I'm trying to say, like where I was like, oh yeah, that's good news, that's really cool, but like the more I kind of kept hearing it, the more I kind of kept ruminating on it, and I just realized like, no, this is really fucking cool. And then I also realized too that I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, but you know the hoes are mad, and y'all know what hoes I'm talking about. Of the Yakubian variety. If you know, then you know. But they are upset, and I'm sure they're on Twitter using their Twitter fingers for so much ill, so much evil, because they're like, in my MLB, it's not even the same. It's not the same standard, brother. How could they do this, brother? Why would they? I cannot believe so many legends are being dashed and thrown to the side for what? And I'm sure they're upset. I'm sure they're just twisting over, turning into pretzels. But it dawned on me too that like in my head that I've kind of even done this. And I was a kid. I remember one of my first fitteds was like wearing like MLB hats that I got, like, because I was just still like figuring out my style, and like we were too broke, we couldn't afford like the 5950s, but we could get these hats and they were cool. And like even then, right, like it instills that idea in you that it's just like, yeah, this is kind of like a lesser, cheaper thing, like, but it's not. Like these men worked hard day in, day and night, just like any other fucking professional player doing their sport, working hard, except in the situation they had to deal with like racial oppression at its maximum zenith every day, every night. Like it dawned on me hearing shit. I listened to Start Here, and they plug a podcast that I don't remember to plug, and I feel bad, but essentially they had a whole stint about like, and it's like from the perspective of, I think, the granddaughter of one of these Negro League players, and essentially just saying like what, like, cause she just knew his whole story and just like what he had to go through, and then like it's interviewing a lot of other people as well, and just hearing stories about like saying like, hey, you would have people in the crowd who would be like fans, like happy to see you play, but then at night they wouldn't serve you food after the game, and it's like, that's just crazy that duality existed in people. Like, we're not that far away from that time. And sure as shit enough, people are still fucking mad about it. You know what I mean? Because that they want to keep that division. One way or another, they just like it. It just makes them feel safe and normal, and it's weird. And it's the same kind of fucking bullshit that gets people upset about, like, having, like, a black guy in your Asian Assassin's Creed game. It just doesn't make sense. Even if we can get historical ties to it for you, it just makes you upset and mad and uncomfortable, and you have to be upset about it. And once again, take to social media and yell at someone, anyone, the whole ether. But once again, it's just an amazing thing to happen, and I'm glad to see this merger. Because Josh Gibson was not a person I knew. Like what, Satchel Paige, that was definitely a name I knew. Jackie Robinson comes into play. That was like definitely like the avatar. But I think that's another thing that people have kind of made that the point on, and why this is so important is that, like, yes, like Jackie Robinson is important, but there's so many people that were involved that made this movement a thing and made it real. Like, and like they've kind of just been thrown to the wayside, just been a part of like the fringe of history. And it's like cool to see these people now just rushed in, and you see the stats, and it's like, yeah, no, this person just way overperformed. And I know I've just been kind of riffing and talking about my fucking hats and swag and shit, but let me pull something I think I wanted to try to find, if I can find it. Here we go. Gibson's 0.974 slugging percentage in 1937 shatters Bond's .863 mark in 2001. Bonds dropped from first to fifth with Mule Suttles, .877, Gibson, .871 in 1943, and Smith, .870 in 1929, ahead of him. Also, another thing I think to note, too, that I heard was that it was also hard to kind of get the compilation of all the data. You had to go through a lot of just newspapers. There was a lot of loss because, once again, it was just harder to keep up with the kind of statistics for the players, just because of the limited resources at hand. But yeah, I mean, once again, sometimes these things just take time, you know, like, yeah, this happened and it was approved by the MLB in, 2020, but, we made it through a whole pandemic. And now here we are in 2024, and you get to see this shit actually merged in. And like, that is what clicks in and makes a difference. And it's like turning on a light switch. I don't know. And like, it really does. It puts a smile on my face, and it's hard to convey and explain. But I do think that if you're a person of color, I think you understand. I think you get it. Let's see. Is there anything else I really wanted to say or add? Probably, but it wouldn't do it justice, right? Do I ever? I try, though. But yeah, no, I think I'll call it an episode here. We'll say that's Thursday. I went way too long. Mea culpa. I'm so sorry. Oh, that's bad. My bad. Y'all, I'm going into overtime. Fuck it. Extra innings. The Pope said the F word. He did say that. I'm just going to give you that for free on my freestyle. You can find that if you want. He said it in Italian. It was a private meeting. He apologized. It's an oopsie daisy. Once again, a mea culpa on the subject. But I figured I'd just throw that out since I've kept you here so long. Here's some just extra news. Okay, but if you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. I try to work hard every day, trash man by day, newscaster by night. If you'd like to pay for a cup of coffee a month or something like that, that would be super fucking cool. But if not, that's fine. It's okay. But patreon.com, so Isaiah News, it's there if you want to. I put it in the bio. Sorry. Anyway, free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Always a line. You can find me. I thought about doing a WhatsApp, like a tip line or something, because I know the cool kids, the professionals do that shit. But it's way too hard to do that, and like I do not have a following for that. So like you can just DM me. Like I've made that clear. Let's see here. The socials, you know where they are. I'm there. Find me. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Please follow on whatever platform you're listening on. It helps and does a lot. Comments are nice and great and sweet, and sharing is caring. I'm stifling a burp. I'm not sad. But yeah, hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.